Away from those numbers now, the International Monetary Fund has raised the world economic outlook to 3.6% for 2017 and 3.7% in 2018. The economic counselor at the IMF, Mr. Maurice Obstfeld, announced the projections at the ongoing World Bank-IMF meetings in Washington, D.C., the United States. The IMF also sees an improvement in sub-Saharan Africa's per capita income in 2018.
The global recovery is continuing and at a faster pace. The picture is very different from early last year when the world economy faced faltering growth and financial market turbulence. We see an accelerating cyclical upswing boosting the major economies, including Europe, China, Japan, and the United States, as well as emerging Asia. The latest World Economic Outlook has therefore upgraded its global growth projections to 3.6% for this year, 2017, and 3.7% for next year. In both cases, this is 0.1 percentage point above our previous forecasts and well above 2016's global growth rate of 3.2%, which was the lowest since the global financial crisis. For 2017, most of our upgrade owes to brighter prospects for the advanced economies, whereas for 2018's positive revision, emerging market and developing economies play a relatively bigger role. Notably, we expect sub-Saharan Africa, where growth in per capita incomes has on average stalled for the past 2 years, to improve overall in 2018. The current global acceleration is also notable because it is so broad-based, more so than at any time since the start of the decade. This breadth offers a global environment of opportunity for ambitious policies that will support growth and raise economic resilience in the future. Policymakers should seize the moment. The recovery is still incomplete in important respects, and the window for action that the current cyclical upswing offers will not be open forever. Why do we say that the recovery is incomplete? It is incomplete, in our view, in 3 important ways. First, the recovery is incomplete within countries. Even as output nears potential in advanced economies, nominal and real wage growth have remained low. This wage sluggishness follows many years during which median real incomes grew much more slowly than incomes at the top or even stagnated. Drivers of growth, including technological advances and trade, have had uneven effects, lifting some up but leaving others behind in the face of structural transformation. The resulting higher income and wealth inequalities have helped fuel political disenchantment and skepticism about the gains from globalization, putting recovery at risk. Second, the recovery is incomplete across countries. While most of the world is sharing in the current upswing, emerging market and low-income commodity exporters, especially energy exporters, continue to face challenges, as do several countries experiencing civil or political unrest, mostly in the Middle East, North and Sub-Saharan Africa, and Latin America. Many small states have been struggling. About a quarter of all countries and nearly a third of emerging market and developing economies saw negative per capita income growth in 2016. Despite the current upswing, nearly a fifth of all countries and nearly a fourth of emerging market and developing economies are projected to do the same in 2017. Finally, the recovery is incomplete over time. The cyclical upswing masks much more subdued longer-term trends of productivity and demographics, even correcting for the arithmetical effect of more slowly growing populations. For advanced economies, per capita output growth is now projected to average only 1.4% per year over the 2017-2022 period, compared with 2.2% per year during the pre-crisis decade, 1996 to 2005. Moreover, we project that fully 43 emerging market and developing economies will grow even less in per capita terms than the advanced economies over the coming 5 years. These economies are diverging rather than converging going against the more benign trend of declining inequality between countries due to rapid growth in dynamic emerging economies like China and India. These gaps in the recovery challenge policymakers to action that should take place now while times are good. Success requires a three-pronged approach in the context of completing and refining the important financial stability reforms undertaken since the global crisis, without weakening them. Needed structural reforms differ across countries, but all have ample room for measures that raise economic resilience along with potential output. Our research has shown that structural reforms are easier to implement when the economy is strong. For some countries that have returned close to full employment, the time has come to think about gradual fiscal consolidation to reduce swollen public debt levels and build buffers against the next recession. Higher infrastructure and educational spending, which are needed in some countries that do have fiscal space, can have the added benefit of boosting global demand just as consolidation measures elsewhere subtract from it. This multilateral fiscal policy mix can also help reduce excess global imbalances.
That's the Economic Counselor at the IMF, Mr. Maurice Obstfeld. But that's not all. The International Monetary Fund has also set a growth forecast of 4% for Zambia in 2017. This is slower than the government's forecast of 4.3%. The global lender has also raised concerns over Zambia's growing public debt, which increased from 36% of gross domestic product at the end of 2014 to 60% at the end of 2016. The IMF fears that this huge debt portfolio will make the country's economy vulnerable to market swings and put it at a high risk of debt distress. And there's more coming from the IMF, and this time the global lender has cut South Africa's economic growth forecast for this year on rising political uncertainty, which has dented consumer and business confidence. In its October World Economic Outlook, the IMF forecasts South Africa's growth should take up to 1.1% next year, and that's slightly lower than an earlier forecast of 1.2%. In February, the country's treasury had projected a 1.3% growth in 2017. But Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba is due to announce revised projections on October the 25th when he presents his medium-term budget policy statement to Parliament. Well, still to come on the program, the Central Bank of South Africa seeks an independent investigation into the KPMG scandal. Do stay with us.